Alright everyone, we got him this time. Only 2 more weeks, Blue Anon. The House Ways and Means Committee getting access to 6 years of Donald Trump's tax returns. Woohoo! Yippee! It's almost like the same story we've heard 1,000 batshit times before. Link in the description, not archived, just a tweet. Yes, indeed, SCOTUS has paved the way for the House Committee to be able to review Trump's taxes. Only 6 years of them, though, are included within the batch. Now, what are you going to find there? And why would they want the tax returns? They don't want the tax returns because they think they're going to find anything illegal in there, anything actionable. They've already been audited. They've already been, to be clear, gone through by the IRS over and over again. It audits Trump every year, as it does, any rich person who's outside of the political core. Anyone who's not a unipartyist will face that potentially if they're doing well enough. Hell, at some point I might get up into the income echelon where I'm like, well, I have to save the receipt for this stapler, and it's going to be a big problem otherwise. Trump's taxes have already been gone through by an agency that is known to be politically weaponized anyway. If they had found anything, they already would have jumped down his fucking throat. To be clear, he wasn't president for 6 years, he was president for 4 years. This includes tax returns that weren't even pertinent to his presidency. What they're going to find is that he filed his taxes, he got audited, and he used corporate loopholes and therefore paid less taxes and on the income than the average American would be privy to. And I think that's the point. The point is to basically leak the material to the American public and say, look, greedy Trump only paid a 20% tax rate while you pay 30%, stuff like that. They're going to leak the material, or they're just going to do a very brief write-up about it and say, well, Trump paid very little taxes. He overstated the amount of money that he was making, or something like that. What they want to look into is, did he overstate the value of properties and shit like that for investment purposes, and does it line up with the tax returns? It's their long shot. Their long shot is to try to tie in the tax return itself separate to real estate dealing, to try to see, did Donald Trump commit fraud or something like that. Methinks probably not. It sounds like an awful lot of hyperbole to me, and again, you've already seen some tax statements and forms released before, like the one that Maddow got a hold of years ago, and it doesn't show anything interesting. It shows absolutely nothing. It's just a tax return document. Trump only made $100 million for this fiscal year and paid, what was it, a 30% tax rate or some shit like that. By the way, I think he paid a higher tax rate than Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden was VP for that year, I think. I think it was from that period of time. You can fact check me. I'm not 100% sure. They're not going to find anything actionable. What they're going to do instead, it's a kangaroo court. They don't want the tax return documents because they reasonably suspect that he did something illegal. That would be a job for something other than a partisan committee in the U.S. House, just to be clear. A committee that's going to end up being staffed partially by Republicans in not that many weeks, by the way. Of course, the lame duck session is already well underway. January 20th, the newbies get sworn in, and the GOP runs the House. They're going to be investigating J6. They should probably investigate this bullshit too. That's also why the timing. They wanted it before the committee was run by people who would no longer be interested in playing the persecution game. That's the other thing. Donald Trump is probably not worried about this, although I do find it odd that the Supreme Court would enable a partisan committee, which is what it is, literally, to obtain the tax returns of a private citizen. Again, it involves tax years that don't overlap with his presidency, so that's the only period in which he's been a public official. It has nothing to do with that. It also doesn't have anything to do with the legitimacy of the taxes themselves. It's again, a long shot Hail Mary to try to find out that Donald Trump overvalued a property and then lied to an investor or something like that. It's going to take so long to match those two things up and match them up with all of the investment paperwork that you'd have to go through anyway. All of Congress, not just a committee, all of Congress with all of its staffers would probably need months to go through that much fucking material. They're kidding themselves. The Blue Anon people are kidding themselves if they think that this is going to harm Trump in any way. That's why they've got so many different committees and so many different lines of attack. Taxes, property evaluation fraud, insurrection, The list goes on and on and on. Pissgate and shit like that. Why do you think that they cast the net so wide? It's because they're not confident in their ability to find anything that actually disqualifies him from office. And they are worried that he'll come back. The GOP uniparty is very worried because they know they'll pay a hefty price regardless of whether he gets in or not. They either have to stiff half their own voters. That's going to be crippling, completely incapacitating, and I don't think they can even pull it off, by the way. Or they get a candidate that they then have to shaft, along with an army of people who support him that will shaft the GOP anyway and rip the uniparty apart. They are doing this because they are worried. That's about all. Peace out.